Hello, everyone. Special greetings from C.N.H.C team to all Canadians from coast to coast who would like to hear different views and perspectives from the domain of natural medicine versus the mainstream allopathic model. This platform is for whom want to overcome their health challenges naturally and effectively without using suppressive methods. We are here to provide you information and answer to some of your unanswered questions. As you know, C.N.H.C is a national grassroots non-political health and healing movement, and it's created for the purpose of raising health and well-being awareness to provide a much-needed learning environment for Canadians. It preserves, protects, and transmits the true knowledge, correct information, philosophy of life, life principles, universal laws, natural laws, and inner human healing ability and curing concept. So today, the team of C.N.H.C are here. Thank you so much for your commitment and contribution from the beginning to now. You guys are awesome. As I always say, I couldn't have done it without you, and I truly appreciate it. For some of some of the viewers who don't know me, I'm Dr. Zarrin from Canada, the founder of Homeopathy Nutrition Clinic, founder of Integrative Medicine and Nutrition, and founder of BioQuantum Academy in Canada. I'm the director of C.N.H.C and author of Quantum Anti-Aging. So if you want to know more about me, you can visit my website, bioquantum.ca. So today is a little bit unusual topic. The team chose to have a topic on water, which is actually the most important element and substance in everybody's life. So as most of you know, the water was discovered by Henry Cavendish. It was a British philosopher, scientist, chemist, and physicist. The way that he found the elements, two elements of hydrogen and oxygen to mix together and cause an explosion is called water. But is it enough for us to know about water? This kind of discovery, just to know the composition of water, doesn't give us any form of knowledge about water. Water is way more than that to figure out what it is. It's a kind of very common, but it's a very kind of mystic substance. One way is very soft, one way is very yielding, and one way is very strong and amazing substance on earth. Water, as I always say, can heal, and water can kill. Why? Because 75% or 2/3 of your life, your body, is water. So I'm going to get into the ancient science about water, modern science about water, the biology science, and also quantum science to exactly understand what the water is. Actually, I can say that only water knows to answer these questions. No biology scientist so far understood what the water is. I'm not talking about the composition, chemical composition. They have not understood about the structures of water to the point that to explain it clearly and fundamentally to in a science literature. So water is, as I said, is very weird. It's a very weird substance, but on the other way is very intelligent. Anything comes to contact with water leaves a trace of memory. Water is like a computer, records and memorizes information. And these memories and information is from the beginning of life to now. And nothing is being erased in water. But when it comes to, we want to understand the water, beside the composition, chemical composition, we have to understand the structure of water. It's way more important than chemical composition. We know water is H2O, There's two negative hydrogen and one positive oxygen, but doesn't get us anywhere to understand this composition. We have to understand the structure of water, why nature made, like human beings, 75 2/3 water. So, for example, water, when I say it's weird, it's been studied so well, but unfortunately, the modern science does not back up and support the ancient science to get to understand water much better. But a lot of trial, a lot of research has been done on water. For example, if you put water under the lights, the structure of water is changing. When you turn off the lights and you check the structure is another one. So with the light and without the light, the water structure is changing. But you put it in the chemical to understand the chemical composition is the same. H2O, it does not change, but a structure of water changes. A structure of water changes with noise, with the way in looking at it, with the way you're holding it. The water will close to you if you are in emotional charges, in a grief or anger or happiness or panic or whatever. The structure of water is changing. The molecular composition is the same thing, but why the structure of water is changing? I hope I have time to explain it to you why the structure is changing. So it's like the water is a cluster of memory cells, like a magnetic tape, with 440,000 informational panels. Look at this. 440,000 informational panels. No computer is much more sophisticated than water. So as composition of water, H2O, these two atoms, is like an alphabet. When you have alphabet A, B, C, D, up to Z, you can make sentences with these alphabets. The H2O, the chemical composition for water, is the alphabet for water, but we can make different sentences as different structures. For example, the water is the only substance on the planet Earth, in the cosmos, that can hold three different states, such as fluid in a room temperature. It's below zero temperature, becomes ice or solid. And when you boil it, become vapor or become gas. There is no any substances on the planet Earth that can hold three states. And how weird the water is compared to any other substances on the planet Earth, that everything in the cosmos, everything on Earth, when it goes below zero temperature, is going to contract. It becomes colder, but water expands. The water is opposite of everything you can find in the cosmos. Instead of contraction, it goes through expansion. That makes it very different to any other substances. Nature never makes mistakes. Nature has done a great job to bring water in life. Actually, water shapes life and life shapes water. These two are not separable. There is no such a thing. For example, if you go on hunger strike, which I have done it, so you can go without food for weeks. You don't die because the body has the reservoir of nutrients, but not more than 3 days or 4 days, you can go without water. So interesting about water is inorganic. It's not an organic, right? It's transparent, it's tasteless, it's odorless, it's colorless. It has nothing, but it's the main constituents of the Earth hydrosphere and the fluids of all living organisms. We know that. So, but why water is that much important? Does not give us food. Water is not food. Does not give us any organic substances or any organic nutrient. It does not give us any energy. So it's not organic micronutrients. So, but it has more job to do beyond that. We can talk about water. You know, we have 3 different sources of natural water, such as groundwater or wells. They're underground. There are some water on surface, such as oceans, such as lakes, such as rivers. And we have the major source of the water on planet Earth is the rainwater. So, but not everybody has access to the groundwater or rainwater or spring water. So the reason that I brought it up, because I want to tell you that how toxic and how destructive the tap water is in modern societies. I would explain it later. So as I always say, life starts in water. Even after conceiving a life, after conceiving a baby, the baby is insulated in amniotic fluid for 9 months. Without this amniotic fluid, the life cannot sustain, life cannot grow. These are the major function of water. What I'm trying to say is from biology science or from chemistry science, I would like to finish with that science, then get to the quantum science of water that explains what water is. Because chemistry science can explain it only that, yes, amniotic fluid is the water that can sustain life. Yes, water is a transportation vehicle in the body. It's anything can be dissolved. Any substances in the human body can be dissolved in water. It's the most important solvent in the human body. It's a medium for chemical reactions. It's a lubricant for joints. You cannot kind of bend or lift your finger without water, because synovial water in the joint can lubricate your joint. Any part of the body that you try to move without water, you cannot move it, because the water is the lubricant. And it's hydrating the connective tissues. The connective tissue does not have enough hydration. It collapses, such as the skin, such as bones, such as muscles. And also is an insulator, like the brain is insulated into water. You know, imagine the soft material, the soft substances in nature can be an insulator for the most important device of human being, which is brain. It's a shock absorber in the body. Otherwise, a little bit of shock electricity can kill us. So, and also is a temperature regulator in our body, because the human body has to have always a right homeostasis, equilibrium. So that's the water job, to regulate the temperature, to bring the human body into homeostasis. So these are the chemistry or biology science behind it. We know how important it is, the water's functions in the human body. I would like to talk about the 5 elements of life as a whole, in the nature, in the cosmos, and inside the human body. As I always say, human body is an absolute part of nature without exception. Anything you can find in nature, you can find it in the human body. Just name it. You can find silver. Yes, we do have. Gold, we do have. If the science did not find those elements in human body like 100 years ago, or 60 years ago, or 10 years ago, it does not mean that it doesn't exist. So everything in nature is in the human body. All the philosophies unanimously from the ancient era, ancient time around the globe, classify the composition of the cosmos into 5 elements, no changes. 5 elements: water, which is 70% of the earth, and the same percentage you can find it in the human body or any other living being. The composition is the same, and so is the proportion. 73 to 75% of water in the nature, and the same proportion in human body. And the other part is with Earth, like the solid part of the cosmos, solid part of planet Earth, the mountains, the soil and everything, the same thing, you can find it, and the same percentage in human body, which is 12%. And in nature, we have 6% air, the same proportion we have in our body, we can find it in the lungs. And we have 4% fire in the nature, but the same percentage, 4%, we have it in human body for our digestion, in solar plex, in nervous system, in our heart, in our brain. Everything needs this form of fire in order to work. And there is 3% is called ether or space in the cosmos, and we have the same hollow spaces, which is 3% in our human body, such as thyroid is in a hollow space, such as brain in a hollow space, but it's insulated with water. So this space, the 3% space, is the same proportion you can find it in nature. So the problem with the new science or modern science, I don't know, FDA, WHO, UN, they claim that they own science. They're owning science, but it's their science. They can own the science that they created, but the science, it does not change. Science is not created. Science is already created by nature. You just have to find it, discover it, and download it. So if any establishment, they want to create a science for themselves, they can go ahead. But having a great knowledge of these 5 elements help every human being to understand the laws of nature, how nature governs, and also the healing principles within human being. If we don't understand the composition of nature and the composition of human body that are almost equal, it's very hard to understand the healing ability and the healing process and concept of cure in the human body. So without water, which is 75% of our lives, 75% of Earth, the other 4 elements, earth, air, fire, and space, they cannot function. So as simple as that. No other elements in human body can function without this 75%, which is 2/3 of our lives. So as we know, human body has 2 major dimensions. It's a physical body or chemistry or biology body. And another one is non-physical body. We call it energy, quantum, or subtle body. Non-physical body always and always runs the chemistry. The problem with the new science is their focus is on the chemistry. No matter how much the chemistry you focus, if the problem is with non-physical body or quantum body, the biology is dead. Biology is dead without quantum. So, as I mentioned, 2/3 of Earth's surface is covered by water. So 2/3 of human body is made of water, almost the same percentage on the Earth. So we came from Earth, we go back to Earth. So we know that, again, the functions of the water, as I mentioned earlier, is very important. For example, the blood, human's blood. 92% of human blood is water. So you cannot survive, nobody can survive without water for more than a few days. So, and also water carries oxygen and nutrients to cells. Cell cannot survive without water. The plasma of the cells is water. The interstitial tissue, the matrix is water. Water is the fundamental element of life and the base of our survival. And it should be respected with gratitude and reverence. The problem with the modern science, they do not care and they do not understand the importance of water and how to treat water. It's scientifically, it's been proven that the way even you look at water, the way that you touch the water, the way you keep the water, and your emotional charges changes the molecular structure of the body, and consequently, it functions accordingly within you after drinking water. So when it comes to understanding the water, yes, we understand the chemistry. Yes, we understand the periodic table and all those chemistry. We know what's the formula and composition is. But why the water behaves differently in human body if it's treated differently? That's the question should be answered by quantum physics. Why the water has this ability to change structures? It's not only when it's the fluid, it's not only when it becomes ice, it's not only it becomes gas, but when it goes into your system, can change structures. There are times that people come to me, like my patients come to me for long chronic arthritic pain. And when I take the case, and practically they're following a good lifestyle. The food is okay, according to their genetic code and according to the lifestyle, everything's okay. But when I asked about water, how do you drink water? It's not only what kind of water. Is filter water? Is this water or that water? Or is not only how much water you're drinking. We know water is 75% of our lives. We know that we have to drink enough water, but that's not the case. How you treat water before you're putting it in your system is way more important than how much water and what kind of water. I'm not ignoring, I'm not, underestimating the kind and the quantity or quality. These are the most aspect of the water. But above all those, how you treat water is important. So that's why in ancient time, they always say you have to have the water in, for example, if you pray or something, in peaceful areas. When I was a child, always my mom was telling us, don't ever drink water immediately from tap. The water has to sit. So then I studied it and said, yeah, the structure of water that comes from tap water is pointy. That's why the patient with arthritic pain told me that they always drink water, tap water, and they gave me the very instant clue to make the diagnosis. That's a problem. It's not that how much water you drink. It's not that what kind of water only. It's the structure of water is determine the health of the state of your health. The structures, not how much, or not only what kind. So the water, I always, when I talk about water, is talk about science of biology versus science of physics to really understand the water. As I mentioned earlier, water is the only substance on Earth that holds 3 different states. And I said that it's very weird. Instead of contraction, it goes through expansion when it freezes. But recently, there is another state of water is been discovered. They said recently by one of scientists that Dr. Henneman discovered this state of water 200 years ago through homeopathic medicine, which I'm going to talk about it later. I will allow the other ambassadors to talk, and I would go after, if I have time, I would explain to you how the water can be charged, because water should work like a battery in you. The water has to be charged in order to serve you. The water has to be charged in order to go to mitochondria and brings energy. The regular water, no matter what kind and how much, is not helping you. So Guys, if you are okay with that, I pass it to you because I don't want just to talk and talk. If you have any question up to now, you can ask question, but I can pass it to you, and then I go at the end. I go for my second segment.
Hi, Parvin. So, one thing that you had said when you were correlating the components of, Earth also holds 75% water. We hold 75% water. Animals also carry the same percentage within their bodies, along with all of the elements. So that I did not know as well. So, it really, yeah, just listening to you to speak on water and what I also have learned over the last number of years. I'm still learning too. There's so much to know and comprehend, the importance of water and how we treat it. I know for myself, when I heard about Dr. Masaru Emoto's work, I had actually led a training 5 years ago at one of the companies that I was working for. And, just like plants, how we talk to it, the environment that it's in, music can change the structure of water, all of these different things. So it really has me, my first thought was, why didn't we learn all this stuff in school?
Oh,
This is the stuff that we should have been learning about in, kindergarten, grade 1,
with modern
right?
science, with modern
Yeah,
science.
it's we to know the things that are out there that are just so readily available. And you know I mean, most people, including myself, once upon a time were just, oh, I got to drink water, unconsciously saying, I got to drink water. Oh, I got to drink water. I feel hot. I'm sweating, but there's so much more beyond that to know in terms of how it also impacts, especially when it's something that we're putting in our bodies every single day. So that's what I wanted to share. Thank you, Parvin.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing. So, yes, I would like to show you this. Can you see it or no?
Oh,
No,
wait.
we can't see it, Parvin, because your screen. Yeah, if you hold
now?
down like that, we can see it. Yes.
Okay, there is number one here,
Yeah.
and 26 zeros in front of it. The paper didn't have a space to put all the zeros, in a one row. Number one, 26 zeros. That's how much molecules of water in the human body. So you see the importance of water in human body. So
That's
it's
phenomenal.
Yeah, that's a lot.
phenomenal. It's
lot.
phenomenal. How much do you want to know how important the water is?
Mhm.
But again, not kind of water only. Yes, definitely we don't want tap water, but not how much water, but the structure of water is
The
important.
quality.
The structure of water, because that's the main thing. And the structure of water only changes when the water is charged.
Mm-hmm.
The water that you drink, no matter that it's from filter water or this water or that water, is not charged. The body has to charge it. It has to bring the negative charge into mitochondria. So, but how we do it? So we're going to talk about it later.
So I'm just going to step in and say thank you for sharing that, like Catherine, just learn about the composition of the human body and the water and what mother and everything surrounding us has, right? I do know we have the elements in us, but the percentages are it's also it's a lot of learning, right? As Catherine said, we're going to learn this. You can't go to regular schools to learn these things, right? That is very relevant because we need to be in balance with things that's around us, right? So if we're depleted, yeah, we're going to be depleted. And then a lot of people are just drinking water that are not necessarily inducive to their body, right? That's why you see them so shriveled up in the way. It's like we should be like babies, just plump and mullible. certain healthy, and we should grow, with the right water as we consume it. But yeah, no, and I would also like to say as well, in regards to water, this whole topic of water, is that water itself, it ripples, right? Whatever we're doing, like today, the energy in the water itself, it ripples. So whatever we're doing today, we're dropping a little container of knowledge into the water. Is going to ripple out, right? And once it ripples out, it's going to get to everybody's attention that needs to be, contained, and that information will be absorbed, energetically in the quantum field. This is what we're working towards. Yeah, and water does give life. So this is what we're actually here for, is giving life into the quantum field, and also talking about water and many other things that we're going to be talking about as well. So today itself is going to be on water.
Thank you, Helen. Lamont, would you like to
Sure. Well,
share
sure.
something?
Sure. Well, I certainly can, because I really want to hear, where you've been able to work with water for as long as you have, because one of the things I know about homeopathic medicine is that water is a very important carrier of information. You were able to touch lightly on, mitochondria and how the cells are able to communicate with each other. And it's very important for the two elements of water and essential fatty acids to speak to the cells. And really, from what I've learned from working with some pretty in-depth practitioners and athletes and world-renowned health advocates in what's termed now today as biohacking, which is discovering ways that the biology of the body can turn around and heal itself based on the kind of foods we eat, the supplements we put in there, and quite frankly, the water, right? And we're learning all that. Now, I want to put some things out there and present a little PowerPoint that I put together. But I want to open up the ability for anybody else to ask any questions before I did that. Natasha, you haven't spoken on any questions or water yet. Did you want to say anything before I get into this?
Well, I have been writing questions. I didn't know when it was a good time to ask anybody, but something I did, it's a question from my mom because she's here listening as well. She was wondering about the structure, because Parvin was saying about the structure of water is important. Now she was wondering about, holy water or water that's blessed. Yes. Is there any tests or studies that are done that show the difference in the structure of the water itself? Because you were saying about, charging water and different structures and composition of the water. So that's one question that my mom had. If anybody has ever done a study to notice if there's a difference between water that's blessed or not blessed.
So Parvin, you can either answer that question from where you're at right now, or I can always go through what I have to present, and then we can both answer the question if you wish. Because I think once I'm done with what I have to say, it'll completely answer that question. And I'm also going to put right now some reference material and authors to talk exactly about the subject that you've talked about. As a matter of fact, if I didn't say anything past this point, the 4 bullet points that I put in the comment section absolutely answers everything that we're wondering about water in what I determine to be some of the most important points of really what water is.
Yeah.
So Parvin, if you wish, say what you have to say about water and answering that question, and then I can get into the presentation and just solidify more of what you're probably gonna say here. Go for it.
Natasha, a lot of study has been done in regards to your questions, like when you pray on the water, the holy water is always been from the beginning of time to now, right? And even me as a Buddhist, every single day in the morning, I bring water and put it in front of my mandala, and when I pray, the structure of water somehow is changing for sure. and at the evening, that water can be I can drink it or whatever, give it to animal or. But that, in regards to that, a lot of studies have been done that structure of water is changing when you are in a positive mental state.
Okay.
When that's been done. And also, I don't know, Lamont or any of you, that there are a lot of it actually in YouTube you can find that they have done it in this test that they brought two different vessels of water, and a group, they give it a lot of love, a lot of kindness, a lot of compassion words. They used a lot of positive words, and good planning or whatever. And they checked the structure. They saw it very silky and kind of such as a star, that the structure is like a star. But the other group, they give a lot of hate, a lot of, I never done it myself, but they're out there. You cannot find it in any scientific literature. They're done by individuals, the individual scientists. And they give a lot of negative emotions and negative words, negative kind of actions or whatever. And they checked that they saw the structure is pointy. So the pointy is that you can find it in arthritic people, when the water becomes pointy. That's why but the water in a peaceful, like a place, such as praying place, doesn't matter what kind, and undoing the water, because the water comes through piping system. The modern society, they don't have much access to spring water or underground water, right? But they created the piping water, right? The tap water. So they thought they have done good for humanity, which I doubt it. But this water, it goes through very unnatural and artificial pressure with the rusty form of metals inside the rusty form of metal. And when it comes out of the tap water, it's not water. In terms of structure, it's not water. The chemical composition is the same, but it's not water. That's why I always, is part of my recommendation to everyone who comes to me, say, you have to undo water. Undo water means the water has to sit for 8 hours in order to get back to the natural structure. But if you want to treat water in order to heal you better, then put it in a peaceful place. You can make a holy water on your own to do that. Come into the positive mental states, and whatever the methods you use and whatever the tools you use in order to bring yourself in a mental states, a positive mental state, it works on the water for sure, because water is like a computer. The way that you're charging the water, that charge is going to function in your system. So personally, I believe in holy water for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I know there's tests that have been done on plants, and people say when you talk to your plants and you feed them water, they tend to grow faster and healthier in a positive environment as opposed to a negative environment. And we all know that plants are, I don't know the percentage they are of water, but there's, a percentage of water that plants hold. So yeah, that makes sense. The same with water. If you pray on it or you have it in a positive environment, your intentions drinking it are more positive, other than I have to drink water, I have to drink water, I have to drink water. Like Catherine was saying, these are not things that we've ever learned in school. These are things that should be taught in schools, but we all know, every one of us here know, that the school system is not great, and people are not being taught what they should be in schools. I'm going to send this back to Lamont. I just want to say that I do have about 7 or 8 questions written down, and they're kind of random. So maybe we could let Lamont do his speech. He might even answer some of the questions.
Yeah.
And then, I'm sure I'll have more anyway, but yeah, thank you for that, Parvin.
When we get to quantum part of it, I think a lot of questions are answered.
Yes, absolutely.
And see, here's the exciting part. I have never been asked to present what I know about water. Okay. Because normally if we're speaking on a subject, it's very focused and there's only a certain amount of material out there and it's very cut and dry, and the research and studies are there, and we're all about proof in this world. Okay. Everybody wants to see a peer-reviewed literature. Everybody wants to see your placebo-controlled double-blind studies. Not as much on the side of spirituality, but in medicine, absolutely. And, we've all been led to believe that because of this educational system that we've been brought to, that quite frankly has disempowered people for a long time away from the innate wisdom holders and elders that we've had for so long, the thousands of years of information that we've had from Eastern medicines, to now believe that after 200 years of research and studies from Western medicine, that has shown us that, the more we take away our personal responsibility of healing for ourselves, the more we're led down this road of ill repute by the agencies and the pharmaceutical companies and the medical industries that are out there trying to tell us that because they are authority figures around these subjects, that they should be believed no matter what. And so it's my great pleasure to open up the subject that I have here today. I'm going to go all over the place, because like I said, I know a little bit about water, and I'm really excited as to what I'm going to bring out here today. And Natasha, you can ask all the questions you want after this, because this is my life mission and my pleasure. So first and foremost, I want to explain a little disclaimer around who I am around water. My name is Lamont Daigle, and I am the president of a company called Kangen Water Toronto. It's an ionized restructured water that's been in Japanese hospitals for over 50 years. The technology was actually discovered by Russians in 1920 and taken over by the Japanese at figuring out exactly what we're talking about here today, the structure of water and the responsibility of, quite frankly, the liquid form of creation, the liquid form of God. There's nothing that lives in the world without it. It's in the air in front of us. Even gasoline can't have its structure and its function without water. Water is number one when it comes to living, but of course, air is above that. If we don't breathe for 15, 20 seconds, good luck to you all. The next one after that is, of course, water. We can't survive without it. And like Parvin said, when it comes to eating food, you can survive 2 to 3 weeks without food, but you can't go past 2 or 3 days without water. It gets really, really sketchy for people. And as a matter of fact, the more dehydrated the brain is, the more they can link it to being brain fog, mental ability is gone. And as a matter of fact, it's almost like driving a car under the influence of alcohol. If you don't have enough water in your system, you're in big trouble. So I've known about water and been researching this since 2008. So I have about 14 years of experience in the water. I've put in the comments section, like I said, some of the important points that I know about water. And what I've done is actually a little PowerPoint presentation that I'll get to in a second, but I just wanted to give you some basic facts around what we know about water. Number one, tap water, like Parvin said, is a healthier option than soft drinks and all the other waters out there that people make us think are good for us. But according to environmental working groups, there is at least 315 different pollutants found in America's tap water since 2004, and over half of these pollutants are completely unregulated and can legally exist in any amount in bottled water that you buy today in the stores. At the current level of contamination, the public is starting to question the quality of tap water and wonders if it is safe enough to drink. Based on these facts, it's no wonder that alkaline waters, ionized waters, and more pure spring waters are constantly increasing. Bottled water is not necessarily healthier than tap water, but it costs so much more to the environment and to the person that's buying these bottled waters. Although unassociated with healthy bottled water, it's not guaranteed to be any healthier than tap water. And it's often the only difference is the added minerals which we have that have no proven health benefits. A 4-year study by the National Research Council on Defense of Resources showed that 1/3 of bottled water tested contains level of contamination which exceeds allowable limits. Bottled water can also be slightly acidic, which may affect the body's pH balance, and I'll get into that a little bit later. Finally, the environmental impact caused by production and disposal of plastic water bottles is very harmful to our ecosystem. Another fact here, an Associated Press investigation found a vast array of pharmaceuticals in at least, brought to them by bottled water in at least 41 million Americans. 900 deaths and 900,000 reported illnesses are attributed to tainted water annually. Aquafina and Dasani, for example, I will pick on these two because Aquafina and Dasani are produced by the biggest soft drink manufacturers in the world, which are Coca-Cola and Pepsi. Aquafina uses the Detroit River as one of its main water sources. 25% of all bottled water is simply untreated tap water. 33% of bottled water contains high levels of organic minerals or chemicals, bacteria, and arsenic that they violate industry standards. So just wanted to put that out there, number one, and bring up a presentation. Now, here's the thing. This is going to be my first share screen that I ever done on a Zoom call. So here we go. First time I do a presentation on a Zoom call. So thank you so much for being here today, and please be patient with me. All right. Share PowerPoint. Can you all see that? Can you guys let me know if you can see this presentation?
No, that's just still you.
Okay. Well, I'm going to scrap this then and talk about the really simple nature of what I have in the wow. It's going to be the last time I do this for a long time before I test it. So what I'm going to do is this.
Do you have your PowerPoint? It's opened already? And when you hit share screen, does it come up
right
in the window?
I'm also wondering if he can do that in the back end of it as well, where there's a share screen option too.
At the end of the day, you know what, I think off the cuff. Can you guys hear me right now?
Yeah.
Okay, because the screen is trying to load from what I did with the PowerPoint, and it's not a big deal. I'm going to just go into explaining more of the bullet points in the comment section, okay? And then be happy with that. So, water. Number one, there are certain areas around the world, such as Tlacote in Mexico, there's Lourdes, France, there's places around the world where water is still in pristine condition. Such as we mentioned before, water has memory. It has hundreds of thousands of memory panels, and it is possible that through human consciousness and through chemicals in the water, and even the water, even the way water is transported in 90-degree angle pipes coming into municipalities and homes, and even lead and Wi-Fi, and every possible way that nature could be attacked by the way the world runs today, is that the chemical or the molecular structure actually of water can be damaged from its original form. So why has these blue zoned waters helped so many people? I believe since the 1950s, the science has been shown that these blue zones in water are in areas where the water consciousness has been protected by being able to be lower in the recesses of the structure of the earth, where the magnetic field and the pressure of the minerals and the rock and the weight of all that protection of the water is still protected from the elements of humanity. So people have lined up for decades, for miles, with these pitchers of water, and they've been able to have arthritis helped, some people have cured themselves of their own ailments simply by drinking some of these blue zoned waters. Why is that? Well, the original minerals in the water are there, and the molecular structure of the water is the original blueprint of water that hasn't been destroyed. Now, some of these blue zones and innate spring waters have been destroyed over developments of technology in the industrial era. And of course, because of agricultural farming and fracking, a lot of these natural spring waters have been destroyed over time. So what have we been able to discover? Is that, quite frankly, a lot of the waters that are out there today, you have two choices when you're in nature, for example, okay? If you come upon a natural pond where you see the water has been stagnated and been sitting for quite some time and you're desperate to drink water, and you have a choice between that stagnant pond and you have a choice between that and a waterfall, you're going to drink the water from the waterfall. Why? Well, if you've ever been in an area like Niagara Falls, for example, you'll understand that you feel refreshed. You feel like the water is more crisp, it's fresher. And why is that? Because there's negative ions that are in the water that help you. There's negative ions that are helping you have a clearer mind. The negative ions can also act as a free radical scavenger in your body, right? And I'll get into explaining that a little bit now. For example, you had mentioned the structure of water before. If you take a look at, let's say, a snowflake is, and I just did this as a little sketch here, right? And it's backwards, but here is a 6-sided hexagonal structure, and that's normally what you'll see in a snowflake. That's nature, okay? That's nature. If you look under a microscope and you look at the eye of a fly, or you look at the molecular structure of a flower petal, anything in nature has that 6-sided structure. And that is the only structure of water that is absorbed by the body, wholly by the cells of the body. Because, as Parvin has mentioned before, is that you can put lots of nutrients in the body, you can put lots of minerals in the body, you can put lots of different medicines or homeopathic remedies, but if it doesn't get into the cell, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't do as much. It's expelled by the body. So if you look at number 4, for example, on the bullet points that I put in the chat room, based on Nobel Prize winning data, aquaporins were discovered in 1992 by Dr. William Peter Agri. His research transformed our understanding of the fundamental biology of cells, and he won a Nobel Prize for this. And what the explanation is of aquaporins is this: in the cell, if you don't have the proper molecular structure of water in that hexagonal structure, it's not going to penetrate through the cells. And this is why he won a Nobel Prize for this, because there's lots of different drinks out there. There's tea, there's energy drinks, there's all sorts of different waters that people are telling you are getting the moisture into the body. However, if it's not that 6-sided structure of water, it's not going to do it. And what destroys that 6-sided structure of water is, like I said, chemicals, plastic water bottles, pipes that bring it in, negative human emotions, and such as what Parvin had mentioned. If you look at number 2 in the bullet points of the chat, Hidden Messages in Water by Dr. Masaru Emoto mentioned that through hundreds, if not thousands of experiments held with Japanese school children, is that book shows you the structure of water that's destroyed by negative human emotions, music, difference between gangster rap and heavy metal music versus Chopin, Mozart, and Debussy, is that you can see the structure of water be more towards the hexagonal structure of water as long as you're dealing with a living water. If you're starting with a dead water, and if you're dealing with reverse osmosis water that has been stripped of minerals and it's acidic, you cannot reprogram that water. If you deal with a distilled water that doesn't have any minerals in it, it is an excellent carrier of remedies, such as homeopathic remedies, because it is a delivery vehicle to the body, okay? But the water itself is not going to hydrate you because it's been destroyed as a molecule. The only real waters you can use are spring waters and that have their mineral and have their original structure intact. Now, that hexagonal structure, what does it get reverted to once the hexagonal structure of water is destroyed? It goes into what's called a pentagon, okay? 5-sided. And what is good in the world that is a pentagon? If you take a look at the Pentagon of the United States, for example, that office does not do good things. If you take a look at the occult symbol of the Pentagon, it can be reverted to negativity if used incorrectly. What happens with that negative pentagon? Well, look at it this way. If you take a look at number 4, once again, the molecular structure of water is different. H2O as a water molecule is a molecule of water. It is not a water droplet yet. It's in the air. In the winter, for example, when you breathe out fog. You can see the air expel, right? One of the reasons asthma is an issue of dehydration is because the areoles of the lungs actually collapse a bit because the water is such in a dehydrated state. That can be proven also by the studies held by Dr. Batmanglitch in number 3, your body's many cries for water, you're not sick, you're just dehydrated, don't treat thirst with medication, is that Dr. Batmanglitch was able to do the studies to realize that the lungs, the areoles of the lungs started collapsing because the body did not want the lungs to expel any more water because it was so dehydrated, right? A lot of allergic reactions to histamines are a collapse of like the dehydration of the body. It does not want to release any more water, okay? And so what happens with this pentagonal shape in an H2O molecule is the surface tension of the H2O molecule based on the environment around it. It will clamor together as an H2O molecule with a pentagonal shape where it will combine through its surface tension in 18 to 20 water molecules, all right? And what happens with an 18 to 20 H2O water molecule is that it's too, I'll use the term fat, it's too big to actually penetrate the cells of the body. So when you take a look at a hexagonal structured molecule, that 6-sided hexagonal structured molecule with its surface tension brings together 5 to 6 H2O molecules, which make it a way smaller molecule, which can then be fitting into what Dr. Agri calls an aquaporin. That's the only molecule of water that can actually penetrate the cells of the body. So it's a very small molecule. So hexagonal structure, 5 to 6 water molecules go through the cell. When you're dealing with a pentagonal water molecule with 5 sides, you're dealing with 18 to 20 water molecules, which are too fat to go through the molecule or to through the body of the cell, right? Now, when you take a look at number 1, the water puzzle and the hexagonal key, scientific evidence of hexagonal structured water and its positive influence on health, author Mushik John. That book will also explain, it is the #1 book on the world right now when it comes to explaining what the water structure of the hexagonal key is. Then, of course, you've got Masaru Emoto that shows you the societal and environmental aspects of how it affects the water. Dr. Feridun Batmanglitch was a doctor in Iran who was jailed by the pharmaceutical industry for extolling his virtues on all the pharmaceutical medications that he was finding was hurting his patients, and he was thrown into jail. When he was thrown into jail, the only element he could use to help the patients or his friends in jail was water. And he wrote that book, Your Body's Many Cries for Water. And at the beginning of the book, through multiple pages, you can see the personal letters that he sent to every heads of state around the world, every heads of colleges around the world, for their medical affiliations to tell them, water, it's as simple as that. 95% of disease and cancer is caused because of dehydration. That's quite a big load to say by somebody who's not a medical expert. But what I do is I retain the knowledge that I have through experts such as this and through books like this written by my best friend who wrote this book called Hydration Breakthrough for Athletes. That gentleman is my best friend. And he just won the overall Grand Master Champion of the Ironman competition in LA as a raw vegan bodybuilding champion. So he understands water. He understands exactly what water does. And as a matter of fact, I have a plane ticket to go and visit him at his Las Vegas competition for Mr. Olympia. And you can't get to that place unless you're an expert on water and you're an expert on physiology. So Dr. Bet Mangalich, you got to read that book. As a matter of fact, I had a chance to sit with Dr. Robert Slidholm, a plastic surgeon, after a medical conference in Montreal, it's the airport. And after I finished reading that book, I asked him and his wife, is it possible for me to explain to you how arthritis is caused? And he looked at me and he said, sure, considering I was just a salesman of what's called cosmeceuticals. I used to train his staff on how to use facial peels, retinoids and vitamin C for skin, THC, or not THC, TCA peels for the skin. And I used to train him and his staff on this. So his wife sitting there just shook her head and went, good luck, Lamont. You're going to try to tell a doctor as a salesman how arthritis is caused when they don't even know how arthritis is caused. So I explained to him how arthritis is caused. And it's basically just this. The joints of the body have these little blood vessels that carry the blood to these cartilage points of the body that the water is coming to through the blood. And through the cartilage, which is what, Parvin, you can remind me of that. I don't know the exact percentage of water in cartilage, but it's a very high percentage. And if that water isn't carried by the blood vessels of the body that are not as vibrant because of dehydration, then the water can't get to these areas where the cartilage is fed by the water. Okay. And the doctor was like, oh my God, he's actually right. So read that book. It's a really great one. And that's all really I have to say, except one more little thing here that we haven't talked about that is an amazing science. And first of all, guys, pH of water is really important, okay? The pH at a neutral point is 7 pH, okay? The pH of blood should be 7.365. And every night you go to bed, your bones and connective tissues download bicarbonates to buffer the acidity of the blood that you have, okay? If I just take a look at my little pamphlet here, just to give you an idea of the pH of certain liquids that are out there, just to give you an idea here, Perrier, for example, is 3.4 pH, very acidic. Anything below 7 is acid. Anything above 7 is alkaline. Dasani, pH of 4.9. Aquafina, pH 5.2. When you deal with any carbonated drinks, you're dealing with pHs that are way, way low and create actually more work in the body because carbonation needs to have the organs of the body work a lot harder to get rid of it. So this little meter right here, okay, Parvin, check this out. This is what's called an ORP meter, okay? This is about a $300 device, and a tip of this wand is made of medical grade platinum, okay? And the reason I'm able to talk about this kind of stuff is I bought this ORP meter to test what's called ionized reduced water, because I'm an advocate, I said, of Kangen water systems that makes ionized water. Why are these ORP meters so important? Well, because it shows the electrical charge of water, okay? When you deal with, and the reason ionized water is so important, and you get a charge from these waterfalls and these ionizing air systems that ionize the air, even candles, right? If you take a look at beeswax candles, for example, they have a lot of ionizing principles in the air because they latch themselves onto the particulates in the air that are positively charged. free radicals in the body are free radicals, okay? They're positive. When you burn a candle like this, it's a negative charge. When you drink an ionized reduced water, it's a negative charge. When you drink green tea in spring water as an organic green tea, you're dealing with minus 100 ORP, minus charge. When you deal with a minus charge, that's what's called an antioxidant. Positive charge are what are called oxidants. So when you cut an apple, for example, and you cut a banana and it turns brown, what does your grandmother do? What do you do when you want to take care of the browning? You just coat it with lemon juice. And lemon juice is an antioxidant. So it keeps the oxidants from making the apple and the bananas brown, because it's scavenging those positive free radicals, right? Every liquid in society today that you're buying through a store or through any bottled waters that are out there, unless they are specifically alkaline, ionized, and restructured, will give you a positive ORP charge that simply adds more free radicals to your system, and will oxidize you faster. If you're dealing with if you're dealing with the vitamin C, for example, you're dealing with minus 50 ORP. And let me explain what ORP means. You've probably, like I said, you've probably seen these on the side of fish tanks, okay? And what's happening is, if they see a slight variation of that ORP number, your fish, that you have to change the water. So what happens when the water in a fish tank gets toxified because of all the waste? You have to change the water. Same thing with the body, okay? And so ORP stands for oxidation reduction potential. And it's either a positive or negative charge. Antioxidants are negative. The reduced ionized water that I'm drinking here is about minus 600 ORP. Green tea is minus 100 and vitamin C is minus 50. So in a logarithmic scale, 10 times, 10 times, 10 times, is that the ability of antioxidant effect of a water, of an ionized reduced water. And by the way, guys, Kangen water is just a medical device that's actually invented the science of this as for these machines, but there are lots of different technologies that are out there. It doesn't have to be my technology, right? There are kitchen appliances out there that you can buy for a couple of $1,000s that can bring you great water. It doesn't have to be the technology that I have. The reason I call it alkaline antioxidant restructured water is that is the name for that science of water, okay? Kangen water just happens to be a certain version of it, okay? And so right now, the water that I'm drinking is about 2 million times stronger than green tea as an antioxidant. It's alkaline 9.5 pH, so that it lets the organs of the body not have to work so hard at having an alkaline water, so it doesn't have to restructure the water that's coming in from bottled water and tap sources and stuff into a hexagonal structure that's going to be working, okay? Also, that ORP value, like I said, and then of course the molecular structure. The molecular structure, the reason it's called restructured is because it is that hexagonal structure that's been caused to penetrate the body. I'm going to finish this off by reading this little quote here by Dr. Hiromi Shinya. He wrote the book, The Enzyme Factor. And without talking about ionized water, this is what he says. Water has many functions inside the human body, but the biggest function is to improve blood flow and to promote metabolism. It also activates the intestinal bacteria, flora, and enzymes while excreting waste and toxins. Dioxins, pollutants, food additives, and carcinogens are all flushed out of the body by good water. Water moistens areas of the body where bacteria and viruses can invade most easily, such as the bronchi and gastrointestinal mucosa. Its immune system is activated, making those areas difficult to invade. For all of these reasons, people who do not drink enough good water will get sick more easily. Who is Hiromi Shinya? He's the chief of surgical endoscopy unit, Beth Israel Medical Center. He's a clinical professor of surgery for the Albert Einstein College of Medicine. And actually, Hiromi Shinya invented the colonoscopy, that little machine that goes into your colons and cuts off the little polyps. So he advocates at least 2 to 3 gallons of Kangen water or a likable ionized water for anyone who is going through cancer, and they can just change their lives with a good raw diet and drinking ionized water at least 2 to 3 gallons a day. Because when you're dealing with water as a medicine, you do have to power it through almost like a medicine and flush out a lot of what's going on. And that even hazard to guess this is that the water that people put in their bodies is not escaping. Okay, so what's happening? Obesity in the world, cardiovascular disease is rampant in the world, and what's happening is that we're discovering through the science of what we're learning here is that fat and sugar are not necessarily the reasons for obesity. It's water retention. Once you put the right water in your body, or once you put the wrong water in your body, it doesn't have a chance to escape most often, and it's kept inside the interstitial fluids of the body in those gaps that that Dr. Zarrin was talking about between the organs. And 3 times the volume of blood is in your lymphatic fluids that we never talk about. What's good about getting a good water in your system is that it can help flush all those toxins out through your lymphatic system. So that's pretty much all I have to say about water. So, you know, barring ionized water, right now, the only water that I know that is good to drink on its own, that is not an ionized water and restructured, is a spring water, okay? That is really the only water that I've seen out there. In Canada right now, the best tasting waters that I've seen, the freshest water that I can see are 2 companies out there called C.N.H.C from Montreal in Quebec. They've got great sources of water out there. And that is really the only water that I've seen. You can get Fiji water, but of course you're getting that all the way from across the waters, you know, for the artesian Fiji springs. And that's destroying the environment with so many plastics, oil being burned through all these, you know, all these ships that are bringing this kind of water over here. So that's all I have to say. If you have any questions, please let me know. And I'm open to anything.
Oh, Natasha, before I go, I just want to chime in regards to the water that you mentioned, C.N.H.C. I've also liked to try a different water. The one that I really liked when I worked in a health food store, which was a pilot store for shoppers at that time, years back in Avenue Road, was the O2 Aqua water. That tasted very different. You know, I just gobbled that down. Like the other waters, like Smart Water, it really dried my mouth, dried my palate. I'm like, I don't like this. Because I like to try different types of waters out there. There's some that's very salty. You know, you shouldn't have any minerals, a lot of minerals, anything beyond 1.5. Because anything beyond that is too salty. You don't need that much because we already have minerals, natural minerals in us in what we eat. If we eat properly, and then you need the proper water to actually help us and sustain us. And yeah, it's true. Also was, I'm not going to get into this, but there's this research actually went through on site is through Sentiva, but they did the water brands, bottled water brands, and also the respective pH values of each of them. Dasani was mentioned in there. They did their own testings themselves. I don't know what they use, but they tested out, you know, and they also have it as Dasani 6.25 compared to what you said. And then they went on, and then the most, high pH level was the Smart Water Alkaline, which is 10.22. So anything that is above 7, you know, it may be too much for the individual stomach, but then that's why you got to gauge accordingly in regards to where you're at and how's your gastrointestinals doing. You don't want to cause any problems because gastrointestinal, it's just a function of everything of the whole body. If that's not in balance, everything else will be triggered.
Yep. Right now, for someone my age, for example, you're looking at a couple of tablespoons. You could look up to a couple of tablespoons of microplastics in the body based on everything from, plastic containers that we put food in to bottled water. It's part of the agenda to introduce these microplastics into our body because, you've got bisphenol A's, you've got, estrogen mimicking, plastic softening chemicals that are basically just driving the estrogen load of the body up. I mean, Dr. Zarrin has probably heard about, the incredible overrun of miscarriages in the world from women that can no longer hold babies, right? There's two things going on that are just simply, I'm just putting them out there, simple as what I've heard, apart from the science of it, is number one, when somebody is chronically dehydrated and they don't have enough water for themselves, when you have the water in an embryo going on with a little life in it, is that sometimes the body will say, no, I don't have enough water for my body. I'm getting rid of that baby.
Oh, gosh.
Number two, high estrogen load. If a woman has too high of estrogen in the body, sometimes it will expel a fetus. Okay. And that's part of what I understand about when it comes to babies and when it comes to the dehydration of and these rampant use of petrochemicals in the plastics these days. So that's really what it is. And it's really difficult to stay away unless you've got a home filtration system. It's really difficult to stay away from the plastic and water bottled industry. When you do have a water filter at home, I advocate wholeheartedly that if you can store that water, if you have to, is in glass bottles. Absolutely, right? You have to. Or really nice metals.
No, the best one to hold water is copper.
Copper, yeah.
Copper is the best one you can hold in the ancient science, and I remember that I grew up with copper
Agreed.
vessels. So that's the best that you can charge the water. You get ionic water, the way that Lamont explained it. That's the best. If you leave the water like for minimum 8 hours in copper, you get the ionized water. So that's the best water you can drink after undoing the water and treating it well. So then that's the best water can heal, honestly. So that's going to be the best. It's like a battery. It's like a battery for your mitochondria. So, but in glass, in plastic, the glass doesn't harm, but doesn't do anything because the glass is not even silica. It's just, there's not a natural kind of silica. But again, even is natural, doesn't do much for the water, but the best conductor is the copper. So if anyone goes to the market today and get it, the bigger, the better. So,
Don't cheap out. Don't go cheap on your copper cups or anything like that, because some of them are made, they have oxides on them that are sprayed by, we won't name the country where they might be manufactured from, but the more artisanal that you can get your copper, absolutely, you're right.
Right, get the best one is copper. If you have gold, the gold is the best. I want to share you one of my stories, my childhood, that we were living in a small city on a line of earthquake. So we used to get earthquake like not more often, but like 2 times a year, and it was terrible. And imagine, children going through such a fear. I remember my mom had the 222 carats gold. It's like a wedding ring, that the gold they shouldn't have any stones on it. So immediately the earthquake hit, we were all fearful, and we'd put it in a copper, we'd put it in any form of metal, and with water. I don't know how pure the water was back then, but with steering the water 3 times, and it says, and give us sip by sip, everybody, all the siblings, they were having sip by sip. So, and I said, Mom, what this water is going to do? That is canceling the charge of fear. the charge of shock, the charge of trauma. So I realized after that, what the gold did to the water, it's a conduct. It's charged the water. The water became like a battery, like, you know, and it's definitely, you know, the canceling the charge of fear. And when I study homeopathy, then I realized we have it in aurum metallicum. So in aurum metallicum that, you know, Helen knows about it. So I use it a lot in suicidal cases, especially with, you know, the cases with the suicidal, with bankruptcy, or, you know, that kind of cases. That's the same thing, you know, aurum metallicum. What I tell them in like a very acute shock, I tell them just dissolve it in a small amount of water, like 4 ounces of water, stir it 3 times, and sip by sip drinking it. So that's how we can charge the water, you know, and there are many different ways you can charge water that would serve your mitochondria and heals you. So
You're absolutely right.
thank you
Yeah.
so much, Laman. That was just awesome. You know, your speech was awesome. I learned so much from you. Thank you so much. That was great. And actually, the stage is yours today. And I would like you know more about water than so many others. I would like to ask you if you have any image of your water that you are providing, you're offering to people. Do you have any image they can put it on the screen that everybody can see it?
What I can do is I can actually put, well, it's very simple. It's an ionizer. This is one of the technology that's here right now, right? This is what's called the SD501 Platinum. There is another system called the SD501, which is the original machine, but then there's also machines that are more expensive. I mean, the technology ranges between $4,000 and $5,000 Canadian. However, one of the main things Mr. Hironori Oshiro explained, the creator of this company in the first place, was that planned obsolescence is a world problem on every stage. Right? Not only the technology of the water is important, but the technology has to survive the test of time. And if you're going to charge, you know, $4,000 to $5,000 for a water system, number one, you better make sure that it's a medical device, which Parvin, you understand, and any of us who understand medical devices, is that these are upper echelon because these are responsible for people's lives. Yeah. And the technology has been in the hospitals in Japan, in over 200 hospitals for over 50 years. So they have to last. So they're built to last you 20 to 25 years. Okay. And if you take a look at when's the last time anybody bought a car and it lasted 20 years? They just don't anymore. You know, the leases that you're hoping to buy with a car now is like 3 to 4 years turnaround because the cars don't work the same anymore. Okay. So why is that technology so important? I mean, look at it this way. The Russians had this technology. Do you guys remember the movie, you know, with Rocky Balboa and, you know, he was going in there to fight the Russian, you know, Dolph Lundgren, and Dolph Lundgren was all attached to these mechanicals, and the Russians had the technology because back in communist Russia, they were spending more money to make sure that the athletes had the best technology to make them world class, more important than anything. You know, Rocky Balboa, he was just going on his natural spirit, his natural heart. But the Russians back then had all this technology. And what they figured out in 1920 was a way to make the water molecules smaller through electrolysis. See, the science of ionization of water is not a brain science, okay? It's really not. It's just electrolysis. So what happens with this machine is it has these plates that are in there that are made of medical grade platinum, okay? And medical grade platinum is $2,200 an ounce, right? And so the water goes through these electrolysis plates. And what happens is it separates, or should I say I can't remember the word. It basically separates the water into a negative ion and a positive ion. The positive ion goes down the sink and goes back into the water system cleaner than it came out. And that negative ion comes out as a super antioxidant. And that's the whole point of the water. So the Russians developed this technology to figure out that the smaller water molecule was able to go through the cells of the body of the athlete and rid it of lactic acid, which is the enemy of the athlete, because the muscles won't work right anymore. The pains, the tightness of the muscles are caused from the lactic acid. And if you can get rid of that, then you've got a world-winning athlete. And this is what they discovered that. And so the Japanese were working with the Russians and developed that into the hospital's technology. So here's how this man, Monsieur Hironori Yoshiro, discovered this technology in the first place. So if you look back to Okinawa when it was bombed during World War II, Mr. Yoshiro, was bombed with his classmates, and literally almost everybody died. His family died, a lot of his schoolmates died, and he contracted malaria in those really bad conditions during that time. And as an adult, he became one of Sony's top distributors in Japan. And as a matter of fact, the day that he discovered this technology, he was promoting beta machines, which was way better than VHS technology. It just didn't have the light of day because other technologies were coming up that were going to take that away. But it was very good technology. And one day, Mr. Yoshiro went to the hospital because he had the symptoms of malaria again, and they gave him a glass of this Kangen water. And the symptoms started going away. So in his mind, back then, the technology was like the part of a wing of a hospital. And so he said to himself, wait a second, how can I become a steward of the world and become a spiritual man, basically, and help the people of the planet basically understand how to rid themselves of disease and drink this water, and they can make their world better? Is that he decided to create this technology that would work in the homes, and he would go to North America and market this, and he would help the rest of the world get to a better place. So instead of the revenge in his heart that some people feel after war, he actually took it upon himself to develop a technology that could turn around the health of the world and bring a beautiful science. Okay, and right now, 1 in 5 households in Japan have an ionizer, not just Kangen water. And here in North America, it's only 1 in 20,000 households have one. So the technology is absolutely incredible. And in my opinion, they should be in all the churches. They should be in rehab centers, because these rehab centers, for example, are really hooking people for problems. Because if you don't deal with the hydration of the brain, you can't deal with, getting a natural creator of their own endorphins to help them feel good in their lives, and medications are certainly not going to help people with addiction issues. So I hope that answers the long question with my long answer.
And also like to add that I have a machine myself. I got it from Lamont in 2011, and I still own the machine, and it's not being hooked up right now. So we're planning to do so, and we're able to. And the water itself, they have a very, very simple model. It's like change your water, change your life. It does, because when I got the water itself, I knew instantly, because it tasted very different for those who tasted it. Tash can test about it, and also Catherine can talk about it. I don't know if Parvin has drank a little bit of the water, but it has a very soft taste to it, and it just, you can feel the difference. And when I had the water, it just definitely upped my level in regards to what I was doing. I was meditating, it took me to another level. So the more you drank this, the more it hydrates you. And yeah, I have the water, and I have no effects in regards to it. And I'm here to also to help people to share the water too, if anybody wants to give it a trial.
Absolutely. See if you even know this gentleman here. Anybody ever hear of Elvis Stoico? He's a world champion, and he's a good friend of ours. And what happened is, his story was that he was, of course, skating during the C.N.H.C exhibition. And, he's getting older like the rest of us. But hearing this man's story, he had to go through almost 7,000 jumps to learn that special jump that he does. I can't remember if it's the quad triple axel or some friggin' thing, but he fell 7,000 times on ice from 5 to 6 feet in the air to learn that. And anyways, his story was that he was so sore, his legs were so shot that his physiotherapist, who was traveling with him, he couldn't skate anymore one day. And his physiotherapist said, well, here, I got this water, you got to drink it. And boom, just like that, the lactic acid was gone in his legs and he was able to skate again. And so Elvis Stoico is a huge proponent of Kangen water, or ionized restructured water that's alkaline. And that's what's happening. I mean, the reason even Wade got into it was because he was, as a 3-time bodybuilding champion of Canada, during his second championship, he almost died. The diuretics and the drugs and this, 5 to 6 foods that he had to eat for a year and a half toxified and acidified his body so bad that after his second championship, he gained almost 60 pounds of fat and water in 3 weeks after his competition. His kidneys almost shut down and he almost died. So he actually retired from the sport and became the director of the Yaletown Holistics in Vancouver back in the day. And he was retired for 4 years until somebody came to him and gave him some of this water. And he thought he knew it all. He really did. Because quite truthfully, he majored in sports sciences at UNB in New Brunswick, and he really does know what he's talking about. But this is the thing: a lot of these athletes, these high performance athletes, are not healthy. They're not. Their physiques are incredible, but they're one step away from absolute shutdown of all the organs because of dehydration that they have to put their bodies through. Because when they're on those stages, their skin is literally like 1 or 2% body fat, if that. They strip their bodies of every possible shred of water to show the muscle that they have during these bodybuilding championships. Anyway, get this. He started drinking the water. 3 weeks later, he knew that the next championship of Canada was up again. And he got into dieting. He jumped on a mini trampoline called a cellar sizer, at least an hour a day, 3 times a day. He drank about 10 liters of water a day. He started slamming his digestive enzymes and probiotics, and his protein powder is made from raw vegan ability with such as hemp. And boom, in 3 weeks, he competed again and he won the junior masters and the master champion of that championship for his 3rd title in 3 weeks. And the last championship, it took him a year and a half of training. And this round, he did it in 3 weeks. So let's just say Wade Lightheart is a legend in the raw vegan bodybuilding field in the world right now. And like I said, when you're the Grand Master overall champion of the Ironman competition, you kind of know what you're talking about. So we love Wade. Natasha, did you have any questions?
Yeah, Natasha, you want to go ahead?
Oh, Lamont, I have so many questions. One of the things I wanted to ask about, because we were talking about the Kangen water system. Okay. I remember a couple years ago, almost 3 years ago now. Wow, time flies. You guys used to bring the Kangen water to the rallies and different things when we used to hang out. Mm-hmm. And one thing I really noticed was that drinking the Kangen water did not make me bloated.
Right.
Like any regular water, it's like, oh my God, I can't drink anymore. I just can't possibly drink anymore because it's just too much. I'm too full. I'm too heavy. But to try to get my water requirement in for the day, which I usually try to drink between 3 and 4 liters, but I just can't do it. So drinking the Kangen water, it was like I could just keep drinking it and drinking it and drinking it and sipping on it, not feeling full. It does have a different taste. It even has a different, I don't know how to explain this. It has a different texture, maybe. Yeah, it's more smooth. Yeah, my mom just gave me that word. But it was almost like it was more smooth. But that water, you can just you can drink more of it. So I was just wondering if you could touch on that a little bit of why that is, why any regular water that we drink has that effect to make you feel so bloated as opposed to the Kangen water.
Absolutely. Well, and here's the thing. I always like to bring an analogy of what you see in society or that you've seen yourself to see where this makes a lot of sense. So look at a boxer, okay? MMA fighters, anybody who's in the ring while they're fighting, okay? And you see them, they sit down in the corner after they've just gone through their fight, okay? And the trainer comes over and they squish water in their mouth and they turn their head, they swish it around to trick their body to think they're drinking water, but then they spit it out. Why do they spit it out? Because when you're fighting and you're jumping, you're going around, you're bobbing and weaving, you don't want that water jiggling around. You don't want to be bloated because the water is actually not hydrating or it's not being absorbed because it's that pentagonal structure I was telling you. It's too big of a molecule to hydrate that fast. It doesn't do it. It takes a long time for the water to be absorbed by the body. Now what's happening is, like, you know, there's a fighter for Manny Pacquiao. Manny. Anyways, Filipino fighter, and he's a
Manny
Kangan.
Pacquiao.
Manny Pacquiao, exactly.
You're close.
Kangan water in the ring, and because now they're drinking it. When I go to hot yoga, for example, back in the day, trust me, I want to go to hot yoga again, okay? But what they do when you're doing hot yoga is they tell you not to drink the water until the end or during a break. And so the first thing I do, of course, is I started drinking water, and they'll come up to me and they'll say, excuse me, you really shouldn't wait until the break and stuff because I'm like, excuse me, I'm drinking Kangen, okay? I'm drinking water that's able to be penetrated. So I need to be hydrated because I can't handle the heat in here. And I find that my body works better when it's hydrated, especially in yoga and stuff like that. So that's really all it is, Natasha, is that the molecule of water is smaller. It hydrates you right away. And that molecule of water also helps it feel more silky, right? And there's a really easy test people can do to show if your water has been restructured or not. Okay, because a lot of people say, oh, you know, I put this in the water and it restructures the water. And there's a green powder out there. You've heard of a powder called Greens Plus, right? And what you do is you put a tablespoon of that Greens powder in a water, you stir it around and you see if it sticks on top of the water. What it'll do is it'll either float on top of the water or it sinks to the bottom, okay? And if it's an unstructured water, like everything else out in society, it'll sink to the bottom, it'll settle. But when you're drinking a restructured water that has that hexagonal structure, the greens powder actually floats to the top because it's more dense. The water structure is has more lattice work, you know, it has more structure to it. So I hope that answers your question.
It sure does. I hope it's okay if I ask another one.
Of course.
Okay, let's see what I have here. Something else, I've had this debate with people over the years, and it's about water temperature in consumption. Okay.
Yes.
I'm told from many people, and people that I know that are like bodybuilders and such, that room temperature water is the best. Okay. I can drink room temperature water. It's like, I mean, we all can. However, I love my ice water. I love it. I don't know if there's a reason why, or is it better to drink? Like I said, is it better to drink the water that's room temperature, or is cold water okay? Is there a difference? What is more effective? Like what's better for your system?
Well, you know, Parvin, yeah, go ahead and answer, and then
Anybody that can answer it. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, you wanted to answer?
I'll give my version of the non-medical version, non-science version, but you probably have a scientific version. So please, answer that one, and I'll answer after.
Okay. There are two substances that they are directly or absorbed through the stomach, the peptic stomach. One is water and one is alcohol. So water does not need it to go through the form of digestion. So, and the body generally, as you know, it's optimally works the best function when it's 99 to maximum 100 Fahrenheit, right? The drink or the food, but I mean, the body is prone to have warmer food, to functions better with warmer food and warmer drink than colder. The reason is the water, when it goes lower, the temperature of water, when it's lower than the body's temperature, the stomach temperature has to sit there. And it's changing the homeostasis of the body. The homeostasis is everything, is equilibrium and is our balance. and it stays there until the stomach warm it up. Unless, it is not going to be absorbed. It has to warm it up. It has a huge toll on the stomach, and the whole body, from brain to stomach, in order to warm it up and bring it to the normal temperature of the body, that is maximum 99 Fahrenheit. The same thing with boiled water or very hot water, that it sits until it's cooled down and gets to but that's less work for a stomach than when it's cold or ice water. Ice water is definitely gives a shock to the stomach. But the stomach is a kind of knows what is coming and knows what to do. But as I said, it has a huge toll on the stomach and also the pathways of the brain to stomach in order to warm it up and bring it to the right temperature. That's why we always recommend to have closest temperature to the body in food, in regards to food and in regards to water. But the food is okay because can digest 2 hours in the stomach, and then it goes to the small intestine, but the water it absorbs to the stomach quickly. That's why you don't want to give shock to the very first part of your digestion. One comment, again, I would like to make before, from the medical aspects of it, I don't know what Kangen water you said is ionized water. I don't know if it's alkaline water. To me, alkaline water, you have to be careful to drink it what time of the day and when. The reason is, if you drink it with food, is a disaster. I'm just saying about alkaline water. It's a disaster because when you have food in your stomach, the pH of the stomach has to be 1.5 to maximum 2. Otherwise, you can digest nothing. You can digest nothing above 2 pH. It has to be 1.5 or maximum 2. When you drink alkaline water with food, the pH level of your stomach, the very first part of digestion, jumps to 9, 8, 9, 12. That's absolute indigestion. So what's going to happen? Fermentations happen. So you got to be careful when you're drinking alkaline water. So, but after 2 hours of the digestion in the peptic area or stomach, the food goes to the small intestine, the pH jumps to 8 naturally. The pH of the small intestine jumps to 8. That's the best time to have the alkaline water. So at least 2 hours of first eating meal, you should not have alkaline water. But after that, you're helping the intestine to do more digestion, and you're helping with the absorption of the nutrients. So you got to be careful when you're having alkaline water. Mm-hmm. So, and I have no idea about, the Kangen water, is it alkaline or ionized water, but definitely there are always the pros and cons about, there's some kind of water that are not naturally coming to us, such as spring water or underground water. You have to be careful when we are using it. So I had met several people came to me for indigestion. So the very first thing I asked them, they said they're drinking alkaline water with food, which I had to stop them not to have it at least for 2 hours. But during the 2 meals can really help you with hydration, and that kind of water will really help you to heal, but not with food when the food is still in the stomach. It's completely destroying the digestion. So, and I have some more comments and I can mention later if you have any other questions, or Lamont wants to answer the question. So go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you. Number one, I really, you actually helped me realize that if you believe it's 2 hours after you've eaten, I'll pay more attention to that for sure. I thought it was maybe 45 minutes to an hour, but that makes a little bit more sense to me because number one, you don't really want to be drinking too many liquids when you're eating anyhow. If you're going to drink any liquids, 20 minutes to half an hour really before you're eating your food would be a good thing, so that it doesn't dissolve the stomach acids that are sitting in your stomach, right? Regardless of the pH, number one. But what happens is, like, because you're drinking a more alkaline water and the stomach acid is so acidic, is that it kind of buffers and neutralizes that stomach acid, like you said, and raises the pH of the stomach to a point where it's not digesting anyway. So I always advocate as much as possible to not drink Kangen. Try to do your best to drink it on an empty stomach. Absolutely the best way. It's the best way. But then if you're going to drink some water with the Kangen machine, then you can also pick and choose, because the 9.5 pH that I advocate on an empty stomach, there's also 9 or 8.5 you can pick on the machine. That's a little bit more. And sometimes when I brew myself superfood shakes, I go to that 8.5 so that it's not so alkaline, because I'm digesting it that way with the supplements that are in the food. But I would like a 7 pH also. That can also help, a little bit. But 2 hours, it's a little high for my understanding. But you know what? I'm going to go with what you have to say, because you understand digestion and the pH of the stomach a little bit better than I do.
Depends on what you eat. Depends on what you eat. There are times that the stomach is slow and needs 4 hours of digestion, but you have to keep the pH of the stomach between 1.5 to 2. Otherwise, somehow indigestion takes place, and down the road is going to be very risky. If it's a shock to the pH of the stomach, and then the stomach sometimes gives up to digest. That's why you've got to be very careful with the alkaline water in terms of digestion.
Absolutely. And now coming back to the hot versus cold for water, let's look at it this way, like Parvin said, is that there's really nowhere in the body that's really that cold and really that hot, right? So that's why my grandmother, for example, would pour a pitcher of water and put it on the windowsill to let the sun energize it with the biophotonic energy, because that is, biophotons are love energy, and that's the reason everything grows, including ourselves. That's why we also go through a seasonal affective disorder, because we don't have the biophotons coming in. But look at it this way. Everything we have to look at through the lens of the agenda that's led us down this road to believe that all these things are supposed to be good for us, okay? Cold food, cold water, cold ice cream, cold's bad for our teeth, and is really, really bad for our digestion. So here's the thing. If you look at cold and hot as contraction and, contraction, your teeth go through the same thing when you drink hot or cold liquids, especially if you're, and I've done this before, I'm just as guilty, where I have a hot coffee and an ice cream. And sometimes you can feel the pain of your teeth. That's affecting your teeth. Why do you think we have so many cavities today? Because there's so much of that contraction, the big one, the contraction expansion, is that it's creating these little cracks in our teeth where the bacteria can get in there, and for the cavities and the plaque and stuff, that creates more problems and the dentists love us, because that's what's causing so many problems in our digestion, in our teeth, right? So definitely. So I would say this: if you're going to drink your cold water, Natasha, do it in an empty stomach, but use a straw. Use a straw, because you can bypass the teeth. Okay? It won't affect your teeth so much, because look at it this way too. And Parvin can get into this later on too, as another discussion, is the teeth have meridians to every part of the body. Okay, so if you're damaging your teeth, you're damaging every meridian and for the organs of the body and the nerves and stuff like that, right? So the teeth are really important to take care of as much as possible. And yeah, you're right. Cold water with ice cubes, literally, I'll tell you another little thing. When I used to be a drinker, when I used to drink alcohol, in the summer, when I have ice cubes in my drink, I would look at it as a special treat. It's as if I'm having a drink. My ice cubes and Kangen water are my alcohol. It's my drink to have as a little treat, because it's not good for you to be drinking, ice water all the time. So.
Well, I thank you both for the answer. I'm a little disappointed, because I do love my ice water, but I'm definitely going to keep that in mind. Helen just put a message there that we have about 5 minutes left. I do still have a lot of questions. I'm not sure if you guys are interested in doing a part 2 on something like this, because this is a huge topic too. And I'm like mind blown right now. I'm like here talking to my mom. I mute the microphone. I'm like, wow. I'm like, what? Can you believe this? So I'm actually feeling like a part 2. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but this is absolutely intriguing. It's informative. It's interesting. I'm learning a lot, and I have a lot more questions. So
Actually, the main part of my talk is still not done, but I mean,
yeah.
when I get to quantum physics about it. But again, we'll see if everybody agrees, and not next time, maybe the following time.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, one thing that I want to know, because there's just 2 minutes left. So in order to make ionized water on your own, it's definitely you got to have the good water, like Kangen water. And as Lamont said, the biophotons, the best way to charge the water is having the good water and go 20 minutes under the sun. You get 1200 nanometer light. That's the best thing. And the best way to make it faster, mix it with vegetable juice, like green vegetable juice. That's the best thing if you really want the day to make your charged water, because the water that is in plasma, the water that is in interstitial tissues or cells is not the water that we drink. It turns to like a honey-like water. It's the viscous is different, the consistency is different. It becomes like honey, it becomes thick. That's the only way that the cells takes the water. That's the only water is in the cells, in plasma. So the best way is having fresh vegetable juice with great good water and go 20 minutes under 1200 nanometer light to get biophotons, and you're good to go. You're good to go. Beside the good water, filter water, and beside the good, enough quantity of water, you're good to go. You can heal anything very naturally. So it's just a comment that I want to make.
I'm not going to say a word.
Did I leave you speechless? No.
It's like we have no time to debate that.
Oh, it doesn't matter. It's a kind of private session. It's not, nobody joined us, but I mean, 5 minutes, 10 minutes is okay. For me, it's okay. If you still have any questions, maybe we cannot have the part 2 next time, but if Natasha has a question, I'm willing to answer if everybody wants to leave.
Why not? We can answer.
I have no problem to stay, so I'm used to it. But if you have any questions, just ask Natasha.
Go ahead. Might as well while we're here.
I do have to go.
Oh, sorry.
I do have to go. So,
Okay.
should I leave now?
Thank you so much, Catherine.
Okay. Parvin, Lamont, Natasha.
Bye, Catherine.
Bye,
Thank
Catherine.
you, everybody.
Bye. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
I will stay tuned for the updates.
Yes.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you, Catherine. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much. Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So maybe we can afford a couple of questions.
Yeah, one of the questions I had, this is another thing that I guess is debatable. Like, I mean, there's so much misinformation or disinformation out there, whatever you want to call it. Some people they debate how much water somebody should be drinking per day. And what I was told by like people at the gym or any bodybuilders is that you should be drinking half of your body weight per day in milliliters.
Mm-hmm.
So does that ring true? Like, I don't know. Can you drink too much water? You know what I mean?
Well, Parvin can probably, I'll just really give you my quick answer. What Wade and the other bodybuilders are telling me from the science of water is, I'm not sure about the milliliters and how that translates, but half an ounce of water for every pound of body weight, right?
Half an ounce. Okay.
Now, you can't really drink too much water. I mean, Dr. Bet Mangalich gets into it in his book, where as long as you balance a half of teaspoon of half a teaspoon of sea salt, Celtic sea salt, a Himalayan pink salt, to buffer every time you drink at least 3 to 4 liters of water. Then you won't flush out all the important minerals in your body. Parvin can probably attest to this a little bit with her with what she has to say here. But yeah, I mean, Wade was drinking 10 liters a day.
Yeah, you were saying that. That's where I was like, wait a second.
He goes hardcore, but he wanted to really push. He always pushes the limits. I mean, Wade's Wade. I mean, he's a cuckoo bird when it comes to pushing his body. And it was alkaline. What he also wanted to prove was, can you drink too much alkaline water where you might go through what's called alkalosis? Because he also had a raw alkaline diet and 10 liters of water a day, and he wanted to see how far he'd go. So after 3 months of doing that, he actually did get a little wobbly and went through a little bit of alkalosis. And how did he cure it? All he did was basically just take a little drink of, he just went and got a Coca-Cola. And just like that, boom, he went back into his normal state and slowed down the water kind of thing and took it easy, you know. But 3 to 4 liters, you know, everybody's body types are different, you know, so I usually say 3 to 4 liters is usually good.
Yeah, that's what I aim for as well. As I've heard people say, and I just thought it was ridiculous, like, oh, if you drink too much water, you can drown yourself. I'm like, what?
No,
What planet are you
just
from?
be careful.
Okay. Can we comment?
Yes, please.
Okay. I'm not trying to reject what Lamont said. That's his, you know,
Go for it.
idea. So I never measure water, never measure amount of water, which always goes wrong. So first of all, your body knows how much water it needs if it's intelligently working. So that's the very first tip I always give out is don't ever wait until you get thirsty. Don't wait until you get thirsty. When you get thirsty means your body is super dehydrated, okay? And never drink water as glasses after glasses or bottle after bottle. It should be drank only sip by sip throughout the day. The time that you get up until you go to sleep. It's absolutely wrong when they say have 2 glasses of water before you go to sleep, have a glass of water before you get up. This is not the way the body functions. It all becomes urine. You don't want to just urinate through the day without hydrating your tissues and cells. The body needs time to get into the cells. So the best way is sip by sip throughout the day, the way I do it practically for decades. Sip by sip through the day. I don't know what thirst means. I don't know. Maybe years ago, I felt thirsty, but I do not allow my body to feel thirsty. It means it's super dehydrated. So but yes, they say too much water is not a problem, but it's a problem. It can wash off a lot of minerals. If you have the water glass after glass and bottle after bottle, you gotta give the body time to absorb water and to bring it into circulation. So the best way, as I said, is sip by sip throughout the day, no matter what. You're in the bus, you're in the driving, that's what I do all the time. I always have water in my car, step by step. I drive for half an hour, 45 minutes. I don't know how many steps I have. I don't count it. I don't count and I don't measure. The only thing I know by doing this, I am hydrated and it's good to go. Otherwise, the way that they're at the gym, they're advocating it, it becomes all urine. That's it. And the bodies are still dehydrated.
Yeah, that makes sense because I never used to carry a water bottle with me. Yeah. But in the last few years, I started just taking one pretty much with me wherever I go. Because if it's there, you will drink it. It's like it's your subconscious. You just know it's there. So you just sip it and you sip it. Or like you said, whether you're driving or whatever it is you're doing. I know Lamont and Helen know from some protests that I have a huge water jug. It holds 3 liters, and it has like the time on it every day, and it's encouraging. It's like, good morning, keep going, you can do it. So it does help me to drink the water. And I call it my protest water bottle, because I would go there and just through like the 3 or 4 hours, I could drink at least half of it, which I thought was pretty good. Another question oh, sorry, Lamont, go ahead.
On my phone to remind me to drink water.
Yeah.
You don't have to be reminded. You have to know that you have to drink water throughout the day. You don't have to.
Okay.
I know
throughout
at one point, what I used to do was to try to get my water intake. I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't drink enough water today. So I just try to like drink it like bottle after bottle, like Parvin just said. And it's not good. It's like I said, you feel bloated, you kind of feel sick, you just feel like you can feel it moving around in there, and it doesn't feel pleasant. So then I noticed when I start taking a water bottle, you will drink it. And Lamont's going to his water bottle right now.
And also because it affects too much water, because I expand the stomach.
Exactly.
The stomach absorbing it, and then that expansion actually gives the message to the brain also that makes you more hungry after that, because the stomach, and then the portion of meal that you eat is way more than normal, more than what the body needs. So gotta be careful, because the stomach expands, right? So that's why sip by sip is actually I can say is the only way of drinking water.
Yeah, I agree. The trial and error for me. I did have another question. Parvin, you mentioned earlier about groundwater, that not everybody has access to groundwater. What would you say about like a dug well? Because what? Yeah, my brother just bought a house, and he has a drilled well. Sorry, he has a drilled well. So, the water to me it's pretty good. I think it's more of a natural source as opposed to like bottled water. Like, I don't know what's in some of that stuff, but Helen's right. Some of the waters you do taste like salt and stuff in it. That's not really very pleasant. But would you guys consider that to be a good source of water, like a drilled well where it's coming from the ground, just filter?
Drill well. How far you go down? That's important.
Okay.
That's important. How far you go down, because some drilled water are on the surface.
Yeah.
And a lot of wash off, pollutions can get to the drilled well.
Yeah.
So, but the deeper, the better, like a spring water. So I don't know exactly how far they dig into the drilled well, but it's absolutely, if that goes far enough that there is no pollution of surface or topsoil and the water, it can be the best water.
Yeah, because I do know
what I would do.
Different. Go ahead, Lamont.
What I would advocate for as soon as possible is, number one, get into drinking another form of water that he can trust for now, until he gets the water tested. And that's the whole point, is get the water tested, because every well I've ever seen has either too much sulfur in it, has bacteria in it, has manganese in it, has you name it. Every area has a different water makeup, mineral makeup of the chemicals that are in there. Plus, with farming now and fracking, which they love doing in natural areas to destroy the water table, no matter how deep it goes, is that you've got insecticides, pesticides, fungicides, pig farming, all this kind of farming, chemtrails, all the things like Parvin just said. The deeper it is, the better, but definitely get some filters and make sure that it could be perfect, but it's better to do a test and get a real.
I know when he buys the I know when he bought the house, he has to have the water tested, because if it doesn't pass, then it doesn't pass like the inspection to be able to sell or whatever. So it came back that the water was fine. But I just wonder, like, when they do those house inspections, are they actually testing for all of those things? So that's a good point. You could probably just take it in like a tube or something, just right from the tap. And I'm sure you could take it somewhere to have those things tested, or maybe there's strips or something you can buy to kind of test it yourself that would let you know the levels.
Yes,
Do you know if that's something?
Yeah.
Definitely.
that's very
Definitely.
important to know. Otherwise, it's a good water if it's not polluted.
You guys are making me like this little, I want to go around testing everybody's water.
You should test it.
Have fun with it, because
I
you
do.
never
I
know.
wish I could have like these test strips or something. I could just go test the tap water. You can go over to my friend's house, test her tap water, you know. But it's very interesting because people just think water's water and it's clean and it's clear and it's whatever, and it's not.
You know
It's
what?
definitely not.
Here's the analogy that's going to wake people up. Oh, water is water. Sure. Beer is beer. Oh,
Yeah, no, it's not.
hold on.
Whoa.
Whoa. Right? No.
Yeah.
Wine is wine. No, it's not. Food is food. No, it's not.
Organic is and non-organic, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Right.
thank you so much, guys.
Yes,
I
thank
think
you so
we're
much
end of the
too.
session. I hope that we answered some of the questions. But
Absolutely.
definitely, if everybody in the team agree to continue, we're gonna have another session about water.
Yeah, I would like to actually.
Yeah, so no worries. And
Yeah.
again, I think it's the end of the session. And thank you so much, guys, for your commitment and contributions. It was awesome. I
Thank
learned
you
so
as
much
well,
from you.
Parvin.
It's that's a great school here.
Yeah.
Nice.
I
So,
thank you
Thank you.
guys as well. It was very, very informative and very intriguing. And I didn't realize how much I don't know about water.
oh, you still don't know a lot.
I know, and I
You're
just
still in
want
the
to know
search
more.
of what this mystic intelligent substance on the earth
It
working. So
really is.
actually,
It's so underrated.
quantum physics has answer to it. You know,
Yeah.
why water is behaving this way, why the water structure is changing, why it's moving differently, you know, why it's healing, and why the water can make you sick or make you healthy. These are something that you cannot get answered through biology science. And what we talk today is mostly about biology science, which is, you know, one of the most important dimension of life, you know, to understand life. But again, we have to understand how life works as a whole. We have to understand beyond the biology, why the nature created this way, that 75% is water in nature and in human body and all living things. What's behind it? So these are something that I'm still in search of, understanding and finding the, convincing answers. And I would share it with you. I found some, but it's continued to be continued.
Yeah. Because I do, there are still some other questions there and there's more popping up. So that's why I suggested maybe a part 2. My mom threw out a couple questions there and I'm like, I think we're almost at time. So yeah, we can look into a part 2 like another time. It would be great.
Absolutely.
Really.
You guys, try to schedule it for another time. I have things to say too.
Awesome.
Wait.
I look forward to it.
Thank you, guys. Awesome.
Thank you
It was
too.
a great session. Thanks, Natasha, for
Thank you, everyone.
joining. And
Thank you.
keep in touch, everyone. We'll discuss it. That if this format works for all of you, we're going to continue the same format. If anybody wants to, have any ideas, we can do it, because today we did not invite other people, just ambassadors. But next time we'll see. Everybody agrees on another format, or we continue the same format. I'm open to any suggestions.
All right.
Perfect. Sounds great.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys. We're gonna stop recording. Bye, everyone.